Call me old man Wade.
Damn you, old man!
Wait.
Old ass man.
Shut up, old man. You smell like fart.
No!
Old man.
He's so old, he got a podcast on cassette.
Fuck, you're old.
Damn it, Wade.
And welcome to the Old Man Wade Show. I am your host, the God of Stubborn, the Lord of Laughter, Old Man Wade. And I'm sitting here, well, not sitting here, but I'm on Zoom with one of my homegirls, one of my favorite people in the world, the soca-loving, the opinionated, often imitated, never duplicated, the venomous one, Stephanie.
Woo! Hello, everybody.
You've been on the show before, but I think this is the first time we've actually done a solo episode, because normally it's like me, you, and Amanda, or me, you, Amanda, and Carmen, like, you know what I mean, or some variation of the show, The Ladies Lounge, which I haven't done in a while. But, you know.
That's true, too.
But, you know, COVID and shit. So what you been up to? What's
Don't
new?
remind me.
What's new, though? What's going on? How's everything going? We speak, but we don't really, like, speak.
I know. Life is ghetto, honestly. And not the good ghetto, not like we playing outside in the hydrant ghetto. Like,
Yeah.
It's the other one, the one that I usually reserve for the clearer complecteds. And so I'm here. I'm back in school. So I've been doing that thing, you know, doing the mom thing. Started a new job, so I'm doing that thing.
Oh, shit.
Yes. Every time I turn around, I'm doing some things. But I'm here.
But that's fucking dope, though. I love that. But actually, you know what? I'm going to get into this a little bit early. But I really want to shout out, like, the people that I know. Because every time I talk to, like, my homie Greg, my wife Valkyrie, who I see every day, obviously, and my best friend Diddy, my twin Amanda, all of y'all are always doing something, like, new and something great. So, you telling me that you're, like, not only is it... You've got a son who's well-behaved, but you're a single mom, so that's a handful.
Correct.
But you don't let that stop you from going back to school. You don't let that stop you from getting new jobs. It doesn't even stop you from having fun and being a wonderful mom.
Right, because I feel as though you need to create that balance. Like, being a mom is not a death sentence. It doesn't mean that you lose yourself. It doesn't mean, like, everything comes to a halt. Like, don't get me wrong, a lot of shit does stop. But it's not, like, the all in all. And as these little people grow, you realize, like, they're versions of you.
Yeah.
And God bless my soul, because I told my mother I would have took me out a long time ago.
Yo, I swear, what was it? Like, I had to look at the people who have kids, right? Mm-hmm. And I see the type of kids they have, and some of them, it's like, you know, that's your fault, right?
Right.
And I look at them straight,
right. Like, how do you discipline the you out of a mini you? You don't. So you learn to rock with it, and it's honestly like having a little best friend who's here for all this shit. So it's like, you either having a bad day and you just want to randomly go run outside in the rain and jump in some puddles. Your friends will be like, what the hell is wrong with you? Your kid's like, yeah, let's go.
Nah, you know damn well Amanda would jump into fucking puddles with you.
Well, you know she's not normal. She's an exception to the rule.
And that's why I love her, because she'd be like, I'm not you. If you go up to her and be like, I'm having a bad day, I want to go kick rocks in the mud. She'd be like, let's go kick some fucking rocks in the mud. You're like,
literally. But you know, it's important to make these things happen, and then of course you're always going to be their first example of life.
Yeah.
And so it's like it motivates them to want to do more. Like, I don't ever want him to feel like he has to stop because of outside influences, whether people know it or not. Being a parent is an outside influence.
Yeah. So you bring that up, and something my aunt did. She said she wanted to buy a house by the time her son was age X. She bought a house last year. You know what I mean? I believe she may be the first homeowner, at least in the last couple of generations. You know what I mean? So
wow.
So she bought a house, like it's a really, really nice house, and this is where the community aspect comes in. my wife's brother is a painter, and he has some contracting skills that he just developed. You know
Send
what I
that
mean?
man my way. I got some shit that need to be done.
Well, just remind me. I'll definitely let you know. He's busy as hell, but like
I bet.
he takes his work very seriously. So like she had some help, and then you know how Valkyrie is. Find you ask her for something, and she was just finding stuff on the Buy Nothing pages or the Facebook what the hell is it, the Facebook Marketplace.
Right.
And she all but furnished her niece's room when she was living with us. We found a bunch of stuff that helped me out during physical therapy and my surgery. And now that we got the new puppy, she was just like, "Hey, does anybody have this, and that?" And people in the community were just like, "Hey, we got this, we got that. Do you need this?" And then and vice versa. When people are like, "Hey, can you do this?" Valkyrie, the first one to be like last year, I think she might have been like 5 or 6 or whatever the 5th grade graduation date is. And, you know, there was a time it was like all like the graduations were either canceled or via like Zoom or whatever. So Valkyrie put together like this box of like pink unicorn stuff for this girl and like made her a box and all that. And she did it for free. Like she bought all this stuff and put it together. And the mother was like, "Oh, what do I owe you?" She was like, "You don't owe me anything." Like, you know what I mean? But that's... And again, we've talked about this, and all my friends, we really discussed the idea of community, and that's the biggest part. I think if we had more community, a lot of stuff that's going on now we wouldn't have these issues.
Right, and that's another thing. Like, growing up, we always had the village. Mm-hmm. So my mother could send me outside. I could go down the street, around the corner, or I could go across the street to the park, and always know that there was a trusting pair of eyes on me.
Yeah, absolutely.
That if I was doing wrong, it would be reported to her. If someone seen that there was potential harm coming my way, they were coming out to stop it. Like, there was the village. They were the eyes and ears of the community because we honestly needed one another to make it through those times. But now we are in a world where social media runs it all. Mm-hmm. People are sensitive as hell. And you can't say nothing to nobody about their kid or about themselves because it automatically becomes an attack on character.
So you know what's funny? I don't think the world is a little soft. But I also feel like there's the lack of community, I think, is what really made things perceived as soft. So I've had this conversation with mothers of boys. And the idea of like man up has become one of those things where it's just like me, for example, it was always man up, man up, man up. I'm an emotional person, but I'm also tough.
Right.
So the idea of man up just kind of, it was a toxic thing. But as we evolve as people, the term man up would have been replaced by something different, but it still would have had the same kind of connotation when it was like, you know, not necessarily toughen up, but acknowledge it, but don't let it like consume you. You know what I mean?
Right. And I've honestly had this conversation with, for example, my brother. My brother grew up in that man up and toughen up era. However, with my son, he's only 4. So he might whine about some shit that we know it ain't worth whining about, but he's 4. And so it's like with that, though, like even with roughhousing at one point, he didn't like it. And so now that he wants to roughhouse all the time, people don't know how to receive it. But even when he goes through those moments of quote unquote softness or weakness, it's like, I want him to feel those things. I don't want him to become this hardened individual that he can't, you know, feel what he needs to feel in that moment and let it go. And that, you know, he tries to suppress it and force it down. And then later it bubbles back up because of something else instead of him just dealing with it.
Yeah.
So that's the issue with that man up or toughen up era. Because they're not acknowledging their feelings and those turn into super toxic individuals. And I refuse to leave that behind to the world because I've had to deal with it through my life. And I'm like, these are some assholes. Like, it's one thing to be a witty asshole, but it's one thing to be a toxic asshole.
Yeah.
And that's...
No, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, and I'm like, and that's truly what I refuse to leave to the world.
I completely understand. And and like we as like people of color, like we always have this thing where most recently I've noticed our generation has been very much on mental health. It's like if you're like it's okay to be depressed, but be depressed and get help. It's okay to have these feelings. It's okay. Like I have this conversation with people all the time where they say to me, "What you shouldn't feel like that." And I'm like, I would love to just be able to not feel like that, but it's the way I feel. Now how I react to those feelings is different. Like if I'm depressed and I go back into self-destructive mode, that's not good. Now if I'm depressed and I go talk to my friends, I'm like, yo, I need some normalcy in my life, or I need to talk to somebody, or X, Y, Z, and ABC. That's different. Like you can't control sadness, you can't control happiness, but you can control how you react to said stimuli.
Exactly. And the thing is, it's all about doing the work. And so there are so many things that we went through as younger individuals, and that was handed down from generation to generation, but that was because they didn't know better, so they did what they knew. And it's that if you know better, do better. Now we know a lot more different tactics and solutions to common problems than what we were taught.
Yeah, like I just found out that there's a few things I found out over the last couple of years, and you bring up about like knowing better and then doing better. So the things I found out over the last 2, maybe 3 years, women couldn't open a bank account on their own. Mm-hmm. And this was like maybe 50 years ago, maybe a little bit more. The vagina didn't get ultrasound, I think, until the late 90s. And then postpartum depression was something that wasn't even acknowledged. Their idea, the idea of how to help women with postpartum depression was to fellate them. Not fellate them. That's how the dildo was created. Like you're supposed, like, oh, you make them come and then they'll be okay. I'm like, nigga, what? Nigga, what? That's
just like, and honestly, all of that ties together, and that's just like, let's say, for example, trigger warning for those, but let's say, for example, if a woman or a young lady is in a sexual assault situation.
Yes.
Her body is responding to what is happening. That does not mean she's enjoying it.
Yep. And that's one go ahead, sorry. Go ahead.
And people are so dumb gonna think, well, according to the person assaulting her, her body was responding this way, so he thought she liked it. So you mean you're going to ignore her fighting you, you're going to ignore her crying and screaming, you're going to ignore your aggression, you're going to ignore her distress, all because of how her body responded?
Yeah. Like if someone's literally scratching and clawing at you and saying no, like, you know what I mean? Or if you have a trick, like if you have a safe word and a safe word said and you're still ignoring it, then like that just goes with said. And it's like when someone will go, like, and people forget that men can be sexually assaulted too. And he's like, well, he got hard. It's like, yeah, but that doesn't necessarily mean he wanted to be hard at the time. Like, you know what I mean? Or just
right, that doesn't make it okay.
Or the what was she wearing argument, and shit like that. Actually,
that is a whole nother thing in itself. Like, it's almost like it's looked down upon for women to do anything for themselves. So I had this conversation earlier with him, and we were talking about how, so there's a clip going around, I think I sent it to you previously, where there was a group of gentlemen having a discussion about how a man's failure to lead, and is that the result of why women are the way they are today?
Oh, is that the one black men haven't earned the right to hold black women accountable?
Yes.
Okay.
And so, essentially, in the clip that's circulating, the men are having a discussion, and one of the men is stating, well, men need to hold themselves accountable for the way that women are, because men will go through all of these things of saying, well, they're men, they're supposed to lead the house, and women are supposed to follow them. and they're not supposed to disobey their man. They're supposed to support them and then take care at home. However, when you look at the statistics, there are less men taking care of home these days, which pretty much women have no other option than to put themselves into their masculine energy and become the breadwinner and become the person who's leading the household and setting the bar, because there's no man doing that. Now, don't get me wrong, a woman should be able to choose their own path of life. If she doesn't feel as though she found a life partner that's worth submitting or worth following, then that's her thing. If someone is on the other side of that and they found all of that in their person, then great. But I feel as though when it comes to, especially single men, it's like with me being semi on the dating scene, because it sucks. It can go to hell. There's a lot of pee in the dating pool. It sucks completely. Like, these men, they low-key have a problem with someone that can hold their own. And they don't understand. It's like they don't feel wanted. I mean, they don't feel needed. And they think that being wanted is a bad thing. Like, I was never a person that was said like, oh, he needs to pay my bills. He needs to pay for my upkeep. He has to buy me things. I've never been that type of person. Like, honestly, if a man comes and like gifts me some ridiculous stuff or tries to hand me money for whatever, I'm kind of like, what's this for?
Like you feel like there's an alternative motive coming with what's being given to you.
Right. So I'm like, okay, like I'm not all the way comfortable with accepting gifts and stuff, because I've seen how that can go.
So I have a buddy who will remain nameless because I'm not sure if this is something that he wants his name attached to, but it's a compliment to them. And this is a conversation me and him have had when it comes to dating. Like, I've said on this show a million times, dating looks scary as shit now, and I'm cool. I'm all set. Like I told Valkyrie.
Well, I would hope you are.
I told Valkyrie when she eventually realized that she married down and she could do better, I was like, I am never doing this shit again. I don't even know if I'm fucking again if me and Valkyrie date. I'm good. I'm done. I'm all set. But we were having this conversation about women and men and their quote unquote roles. And
right.
He is in a position where he can provide financial stability. So he does. And that, for him, that seems to make him happy. But it's not just in his romantic relationships, it's also within his friendships. So like we'll go out for like lunch or dinner and just to shoot the shit, and he'll pay. And me and my buddy be like, yo, you don't have to do that. And he'll be like, nah, I do it because I can. Now, in his relationships, he's been that way as well. But we've also had the conversation about the title Independent Woman. Mm-hmm. And I read something, and I'd like your opinion on it, when it was talking about independent women, and someone responded, a lot of the things that women make them independent are just things they should be doing in general.
Like what? For example?
Paying your bills, paying rent on time. I'm not talking about for example, Chris Rock has 2 jokes about trash men and then women saying, I can raise a kid on my own. And for the latter, he goes, yes, you can raise a kid on your own, but you can drive a car with your feet. It doesn't necessarily make it a good idea. But then you have these trash men who be like, I take care of my kids. And he'd be like, nigga, you're supposed to. You know what I mean? So it's shit like that. So where is the line drawn between what's the responsibility of a woman and what makes them independent? Where is the line drawn between the two?
So with that, I feel as though it is an extremely fine line. And so for me, I feel like it all draws back to chivalry. And they don't know what that is out here these days. They don't know what that is at all. They don't know about not having your girl walking on the outside. They don't know about opening the door. They don't know about pulling up and actually getting out and coming to the door to get her versus just waiting out, sending a text saying I'm outside or beeping a horn. Like, they don't know what chivalry is out here in this generation of dating. All they know is swipe and sending DMs and unsolicited personal pictures. That's all. That's what they consider game. But when it comes to the independent woman, I don't feel though it's based on tangible things. I feel as though it's based more on, do you make me feel safe?
Okay. Yes.
Do you make me feel secure? If I feel as though I am in a spot where I just need somebody to reach out and talk to, can you be that person? Outside of my friends and family who's going to whatever. Can you provide that honesty? Those tangible things, paying bills, paying rent, buying gifts, and taking me out to eat, and this, that, and the third, that's different. But how do you feel about me outside of those things? Do you genuinely care about my person, my well-being, my psychological, that I'm in good health? I say I had a headache a couple weeks ago. Hey, did you ever get that checked out? Is everything okay? Like, those are the things that I feel as though drums back when it comes to like this whole independence thing. And it's like, it goes back to like, those are the things that are wanted. Like, I don't need you to do those. Like, I do need you in a sense to do those things because it's good to have that security and know that you have someone there in that capacity. But those are like top tier wants. But in the event that someone doesn't provide those things, I can pick up and carry myself on. It's not going to handicap me in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
And so when it comes, and and they always, girls are raised like women are supposed to live at home until their husbands come and get them.
Yeah, that's some nasty Bible like toxic
right.
like that's completely different.
Believe it or not, I actually grew up in the church. I ain't been back because it might fall down. But
no, you living in a church makes a whole gang of sense to me. And you're from Atlanta too, ain't you?
No, I'm from here.
Oh, why don't you?
I just moved to Charleston for a little bit and came back. Yeah, my father's family is originally from Charleston, South Carolina.
Oh, there goes the accent. Because I swear to you, when I first met you, I'm like, she Trinidadian. Come to find out, you American as fuck as I am.
The process of elimination.
And then I don't know why I immediately was like, oh, she from Atlanta like the rest. Like, she from Atlanta if she ain't from the fucking Caribbean. And then I'm still super fucking wrong.
But the thing is, you are not the only person that thinks that. I would say about 93% of people that meet me think that. And I just let them run with it. Because until you actually come out and ask me, the hell I got to be disclosing my life to you for?
Yeah. You know what? And that brings me to Roe V Wade.
Oh. You want to police my uterus, but not these kids? Like, what? Make it make sense.
So
you want to worry about what child I choose or choose not to bear, but you still want to keep these guns in Walmart and ammunition? Because once you pass the Mason-Dixon line, it's a free-for-all.
Yeah, for real.
You worried about the wrong things in life, sweetheart.
Yo, I probably had this conversation many times, but that shit really fucking befuddles me. Like,
Let me tell you something. When I moved to Charleston, about 3 days after I got there, that's when the Charleston 9 happened. I was a sitting duck. My phone, I didn't even know what happened until my phone started blowing up. Everyone's calling me. People I ain't ever heard from calling me, sending text messages. Are you okay? Where are you? Are you in the house? Are you near the shooting? I turned on the news and I was like shook. From the time that boy took those people's lives in that church, even all the way up till today. That Confederate flag was everywhere on the back of all of their trucks. Like that was, I believe, that was way before Trump's presidency. But that was the start of the racial BS for me.
So the Charleston Nine was trying to actually find the actual.
It was in 2016. 15 or 16. I think it was in either 2015. It was 9 people in a church, in a historic church in downtown Charleston. Oh. They were there for Bible study. This child of the lighter descent came in.
Oh, that motherfucker. Okay, yeah. You know the sad part about it?
He came in and they welcomed him. They offered him refreshments. And he knew what he was there to do. And he almost... No matter...
So he almost even, like... They were so kind to him that he even realized what he was doing was wrong.
But he still chose to do it.
Yeah.
And then, so this was the thing for me. Like, after it happened, they said he was on the run. And here I am sitting, like... The proximity of that church to where I was living, 10 minutes straight shot. You just cross over a bridge. So here I am. Thankfully, he was going in the opposite direction. He wasn't going fast because he wanted to get caught at that point.
And they bought that nigga Burger King.
They took him to Burger King.
So that was, you said 5 years. So that was 7 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I saw something today, and they said this was the shooting in Connecticut, and the whole thing was never again, never again. It's happened over 3,000 times since then.
Oh, absolutely. Well, we're only 100 and some odd days into this year, and the amount of mass killings has doubled that. So it's essentially like 2 or more a day are happening. Just not all of them make the news. But yet you have all of this going on, but you're worried about how my uterus functions.
Yeah, and that's the... And it was, the irony about it is, and this isn't funny irony, it happened in a fucking elementary school, around kids.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I don't give a fuck what the race is. I don't give a fuck if it's a black shooter or a white shooter, if you're Hispanic or Asian or whatever. It's fucking disgusting. And this comedian Jim Jeffries has a joke where he's Australian, and I guess they had a huge massacre in Australia. They took the guns away.
Mm-hmm.
And they haven't had a mass shooting since. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I shot guns
everybody else can get it right except for us. Yeah. How the hell?
Like, I've shot guns before, but I shot them at a range. I shot it in a controlled setting where if you were dumb enough to try to take your gun out in a place where all the other people in there have guns, you're a fucking idiot. Like, you know
but the thing is, I feel as though so when it comes to this, it frustrates me. It really makes me angry because you will still have those people, specifically Texas political officials or whomever, who they have in their office, saying that they still need lax gun laws. How more lax does it get than an 18-year-old walking into an elementary school and killing those babies?
Oh, and here's
those are the same people talking about, oh, you can't say gay, you can't, like, excuse me?
Like, they're focusing on the wrong shit. You know what I mean? And so here's a good one for you. Boston police find ghost gun mill inside a Dorchester apartment, and they're talking like 500 rounds of guns. Ammo, a ton of fucking guns, and all this other shit. I'll actually send you the...
That's the guy and his grandson?
Say it again?
Was that the one with the guy? No, that was in Dorchester, you said, right?
Yeah, I sent you the reel. You can check it out later. But
yeah, there was another one on CNN that I heard the other day where this older man of the lighter descent, him and his grandson, they had their hands on some type of firearm that they're not supposed to have. And he was ranting and raving about how he's refusing to get rid of it and so on and so forth. And yet, my uterus is bothering you.
Yeah, and then they proposed. I think it was last week. They proposed a bill to raise more money to get more formula, and a bunch of Republicans were like, "No." So, but y'all want them to have, y'all want people to have these babies, but y'all don't want them to be healthy or survive. Yeah, and I was so
because they're trying to create this stigma, right? I feel as though at this point their agenda is to increase the poverty rate. The pandemic was a gift and a curse. It was a gift in the sense that it forced so many people to tap into things outside of what they considered their norm and create a new norm for themselves. Yes. You had to become a hustler. You had to become a go-getter. You had to become financially aware and, tune in and get real about your own shit so that you can survive this. And now that they're quote unquote laxing all of the pandemic stipulations and stuff, people aren't just going to drop that mentality.
No, but
okay. So when I feel as though their agenda at this point is trying to make it hard because they gotta have people to step on. If people are learning how to support themselves and find other means or other ways of getting it, who do they have to step on? Nobody. And so now it's like, okay, well, let's hit them where it hurts. Let's not feed their kids. Okay, now when I go and I finance that tractor and start my own farm and don't need y'all shit and you're genetically modified, whatever's, you're going to come and try to poison my land.
Well, we already saw what happened when they did that with Black Wall Street.
Yep.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, the idea is, go get away from us. Okay. We left.
Oh, they want you to fight. Like, oh, we need you. They want you to act like you, like, like it's the Ike and Tina. Until you really Tina and man up and say, I don't need this shit.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, well, we got to find other ways to make them crawl back to us.
Yeah. And so I was talking to I've talked to one woman who just had her first child a couple of years ago. And also talking with my wife, who's been in the medical field for over 20 years. Over 25 years now, thinking of it now. And
I need to kick her in her shins next time I see her.
So we were having this discussion about everything that goes on, like the Roe V Wade stuff, because it's, as a woman, it's something that should, is on her radar. And
yeah.
So, I got a vasectomy, so we're cool. You know what I mean? But let's say something, did happen, and let's say one swimmer went there. She should be able to make a decision to not have this child, if that's what she wants to do. But going back to the whole formula thing, I was talking to my homegirl who just had a baby, and she brought up that not all women can produce enough milk to feed their child. So
I was one of those women. I had no choice but to rely on formula for my child, and I was going to say that too. They don't realize, even with them doing this, they're hurting their own more than they're hurting us. I want to say about a year and a half ago, I had a part-time job at one of the local grocery stores. The amount of people that came through my register with EBT, WIC, food stamps were not us. It was whites and Asians, and they have multiple cards. So if one didn't work, they're going through until they got to one that did.
I worked at a grocery store as well, and it was just it's hilarious how they make it seem like black and brown people are the ones on welfare, but when you look at the stats, we're not the majority of people on welfare right now.
They want us to be the face of poverty so bad, it's ridiculous.
And that's the other thing about that. People make welfare sound like it's this really horrible negative thing, where it's I've known people who got on welfare because they needed to be in it and got out and it was fine. You know what I mean? And it was no shame in doing it, but it's only shame in doing it when we're doing Like, you know what
My
I mean?
mother was the same way. She got on welfare because she was a single mom. And at the time, she had me and my brother. And then my grandmother had medical issues. So my grandmother had to move in with us. And then eventually my great grandmother had to move in with us. And she had to get on it to make ends meet. And it helped out. And then once our situation got better, she let it go.
Yeah.
Like, it's supposed to be a stepping stone. I don't knock anybody who has it. And if you finesse in the system, more power to you. Get my reparations along with yours. But
I may or may not have family members who have scammed the system.
And I ain't mad at them. I ain't mad at them at all.
The system want to pimp us? Oh, well, guess what? The hoes learn.
Let me tell you, I base what industry I work in on what I need at the time. When I worked in higher education, it's because I needed to get my degree, but I didn't want to accumulate a shitload of student loans. You work at a higher ed institution, you go there for free.
Ta-da!
Whether it's an admin job, whether you're the janitor, they're gonna give you that. I
have friends who worked at certain colleges so their kids could go to college for free.
Absolutely. And when this one gets of age, like I just left the higher ed and I just left higher education. But when this one gets of age and I know it's getting closer for him to go to college, you best leave. I'm gonna waltz my ass right back into that office too.
Yep.
Because unless something pans out to where of course we have savings for him and everything, but I'm gonna see what his plans are. Because that's another thing. You can't force. One thing I learned from being there too, don't force your child into something because that's what you see for them. Because at the end of the day, they still have to take those classes. They still have to deal with people like me to where, well, I don't want to do this, but my mother's forcing me to because she needs a letter for Section 8. Like, would you rather your rent go up a couple $100s? Or would you rather your child accumulate thousands of dollars of debt for something they don't want to do?
I'm a product of that. My dad was always basketball, college. And like, I liked basketball, but I didn't really love it until he stopped forcing it. Like, you know what I mean? And then I developed something. I've wanted to write my whole life. That was my passion for as long as I can remember. And I completely abandoned that for about 10 years. Like, you know what I mean? Now imagine
it's that toxic behavior.
Exactly.
It draws you away from what could have potentially been a great thing for you. Like, we're all rebels in some way, shape, or form.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody wants to be forced to do anything. And that's the part that kills me about society in general, is that why are you so determined to control some shit that you wouldn't want nobody to control about you? Why do you want to control my body? If that shit gets overturned, now you're saying that women, that's going to set us back so far. That's going to set us all the way back. You may as well go ahead and take away my right to vote, my right to work, my right to have a bank account, because you are already controlling my body. The minute that thing gets overturned, you have the right to make me sterile. Anybody, you can send anybody from the armed forces or whatever, National Guard, whoever, to come up in my house and take me and run whatever. I'll become your Henrietta Lacks. I have no control over anything having to do with my body. Once that gets overturned, you are going to set me back so far. It is bad enough I'm black and I'm a woman.
Yeah, and you're a dark skin.
How much? When I take my extensions out, my hair is kinky. Like, how far back? All right, why are you determined to set us that far back?
Well,
not you, but like, what good does that do for anybody? Because when you look at it, all major decisions that men make, I won't say all men, but majority of men, all major decisions that they make, if they are successful, there was a woman in that process.
Well, you know the funny thing about it is Dave Chappelle has a joke where he was talking about white women, and he was talking about how he was like, oh, well, we were, he goes, y'all were involved in the crime too. You just didn't like your cut. Like, you know what I
Okay.
mean? So it's one of those situations where a lot of these older white men hate the LGBTQ plus community until we find out that they've been fucking another man. And then it's, oh, I made a mistake and I went to Bible class. I'm like, no, you like to have sex with men. That's perfectly fine. Just don't be just don't hide it. Don't be hypocritical about it. These same older white men don't want abortions until they knock up a woman that isn't their wife, and then they can take them to their high class fucking abortion clinic where shit gets done. And to top it off, Valkyrie always says, she was like, banning abortions isn't going to stop abortions. It's going to stop safe abortions. People are going to go places where it could potentially kill them.
Like they used to do before.
Yeah.
Or you're going to have more babies turning up at safe havens and you ain't going to have places to put them.
And then what? Like, you know what I mean? And then it's going to be, all these black and brown babies or da-da-da-da. And you know, it's like, no.
No, and damn well there's a whole bunch of little white babies sitting there waiting for homes and not even the black ones. Because don't get me wrong, I feel as though that decision is really going to hurt them more. It's going to hurt anybody.
Yeah.
Because when we look at the news, right? And we see those crimes about women who have babies and wrap them up in blankets and throw them in the trash or do these crazy heinous crimes to them, it ain't us. And if it is, it's very far and few.
Yeah, there are certain and I hate to say it like this, but there are certain crimes, when you hear them, you kind of know the race that it's coming from. Like, you know what I mean?
And let me tell you, and with that statement, remember that thing that happened recently in New York on the train?
Yes.
Did you see who they pinned it on?
No. I know who they caught. I don't know.
You didn't see him?
It was black.
And overweight and old as hell. Ain't no way he got away without some. If he was the culprit, there's no way that I truly, in my heart of heart, do not believe he was that sophisticated and that quick that it took them that long to catch that man. He wouldn't have even made it off that train. New York isn't like Massachusetts where they have escalators and so on and so forth to get you at the train station. You have to go up a significant amount of stairs to get out of a New York train station.
So you think he was a scapegoat?
Yes.
Huh. Well, I'm not saying I agree or disagree, but I will say this. It's mighty convenient that the cameras didn't work. I'm just going to leave it
And a man of the profile of which they caught is not that sophisticated to have known all of that. And now all of a sudden, oh, it's mental illness.
Miss me with that shit. Straight up and down. I take medication for my mental health. Some people, and shout out me and my buddy, who will remain nameless, but when he hears this, he'll know what I'm talking about. He posted this on Twitter. And he was saying he was tired of people blaming these heinous things on mental illness. Some people are just fucking evil.
Oh yeah, just like the Connecticut kid. Not the Connecticut. The supermarket kid only getting charged with one account of murder, even though he killed 10.
It was premeditated murder, and I know premeditated murder holds a higher sentence. So if they're getting him for premeditated murder, that's good because he deserves a higher sentence. And then the fact that after he left, it was going to shoot, found out one of the cops was white and was like, oh, you're one of us, I won't shoot you.
Wow, it gets better. They never cease to amaze me.
So let's have some fun. I have some questions for you, but I'm gonna let you go first. Do you? So
No, go ahead. Come on with it.
These are okay. So I literally was putting this game together as we were talking. So you can choose to not answer these questions if you don't want to. It's only 5 of them. You ready? You start off.
Yes.
We're gonna start off easy. Humor or good looks?
Humor.
Head game or dick size?
Wow. I'm gonna go with the D.
Huge dick or stamina?
Huge.
All right, size queen Stephanie. This one's PG. What was the best gift you were given?
The best gift I was given was time.
I'll make it easy. What's the most thoughtful gift you were given?
Time. Undivided time.
Oh damn! All right then, you're all fucking deep and philosophical and shit. Fuck you. All right, and lastly, what's the first thing you do after you you finish? Y'all both nutted. What's the first thing you do?
Oh, I'm gonna go eat. I'm probably something to eat. I gotta restore these calories I burnt.
Yo, shout out to my bestie who literally said the best thing to eat after sex is a hot fudge sundae. I don't know how. Yo, he's not even an ice cream person, but he said the best thing he's ever had after sex was a hot fudge sundae. And I don't even have words for that. I've never done it.
Wow, you know what? He might be correct.
All right.
I'm gonna have to try that.
All right. So I hit you up and was like, come up with some questions for Ask a Dude.
Well, you didn't tell me in what context of questions. You just said 5 questions.
5 questions. I don't care what they are. Just ask away and I will answer.
Okay. Do men really consider Kevin Samuels a father figure or an elite person to follow?
All of the men that I hang out with, they've always looked at him as a guy who they don't idolize him. None of my male friends idolize him. I got a buddy who put me onto him, but he doesn't really necessarily like him. He understands that some of the things he says, but the problem has always been his delivery.
Got it.
So that's been the biggest thing. Like all my male friends, they all say the same thing. It's the delivery that comes with what he says. So if someone said to me, "Hey Mark, you need to lose some weight," you know what I mean? As opposed to when someone going, "Hey, you fat fuck," you know what I mean? There's a difference between that. However, if you know what, I'll put it to you like this: if you go to the bar, right? You know what? You go to a strip club. I'll keep it sexual. You go to a strip club, right? And a said stripper comes up to you with their titties out, or if you're at a male strip club, their dicks out. And you're offended by that. You're a fucking idiot. If you call in Kevin Samuels' show, or you're a guest on his show, and he says some shit that offends you, you are in the wrong for going on that show. You are in the wrong for calling into that show.
Right. I can respect that.
But all those people who are saying they're happy that he's dead, y'all are nasty as fuck, and that's disgusting. Praising any man's death. If he was out here raping people, like when R. Kelly dies, oh yeah. Good for you. Die in a fire. But it wasn't like he was out here doing stuff that was specifically nasty. And I'm willing to bet these same women who are happy that he's dead are some of the same women that were still going to R. Kelly shows until he got put in jail.
Probably still listening to his music.
Nasty fucks.
Do men really have a stigma behind single black women with children?
No, I think so, but
because I feel like that topic's just been coming up more and more lately.
I think there's I don't think I think there's a difference between having a stigma and a preference. I think that some people, like I have male friends who have dated women with kids.
Right?
My best friend dated someone with a kid while he had a kid. They're married. They have a fantastic relationship. One of my other friends, shout out to Fletchmo, his wife now had a child that was, I want to say he might have been 6 at the time, but he got into a relationship with her, and I've yet to meet a couple who love each other as much as they do. You know what I mean?
Right.
However, I know I also run with a different circle, so I know some men who are just like, that's just not my bag. Because there's a
Right.
lot that comes into it. You gotta hope that the person that you're dating, that their child's father, isn't an asshole. Like, you know what I mean? So there's a lot that goes into it. And then there's the idea of what happens if you're with the kid for a while. Is it okay for him to call him dad? Is it okay for him to call me like by my first name? There's a lot of things that go into it. Now, are there trash men out there who are like, fuck you, you have a kid, and da 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 da, and just being nasty and toxic about it? Absolutely. But I think
Right.
a lot of times, I think toxicity and negativity sells. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know what the percentage is, but I also hang out with a different group of men. And
Gotcha.
I think there's a huge difference between preference and toxicity, and I don't think there's anything wrong with someone saying, I don't want to date you because you have a child, and then having a legitimate reason behind it. Or just saying, I just don't, or just flat out, I don't want to. I think that's an underrated thing for men and women. Just saying, I don't want to date you. Why not? I don't want to. It's really just that simple. Like, you don't have to, you're not obligated. I have obligations to my wife. My wife has obligations to me. Within those obligations, there are like rules among those. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if one of us doesn't want to have sex, then like, you know, then we just don't have sex. Like, you know what I mean? But like there's this like absolutist world that's just ridiculous. You know what I mean? So I don't. But it's just, again, I hang out with a different group of dudes. I know some guys who are just like, yes, I'll absolutely date a woman without kids, and I know some men who are just like, nah, I'm cool.
Totally get that. What do you feel was one of, like, how do you feel your experience was, like, in the world and dating and stuff before getting married? Like,
I have had 3 real relationships in my life, and that's including my wife. There was a girl I dated in high school. We broke up. There was a woman I dated. I say girl in high school because I was a boy. There was a woman I dated when I was out of high school. We were off and on for shit, like 6, 7 years. Like, you know what I mean? Like her parents were mom and dad to me. Like, you know what I mean? That's how tight we were. But in between that, after that relationship with her, I was just fucking. You know what I mean? Like, I wasn't, like, I've never had a one night stand. Like, I would meet somebody, we'd hang out. I made my intentions clear that, like, yo, I'm not trying to get into a relationship. We got to know each other. We'd have some sex. We continued to do it or we didn't. So for me, it was different with dating because I never really did a lot of dating. So I ended up with Valkyrie, and we dated off and on until we eventually got married. I think we dated off and on for about a year and a half, maybe 2 years. And then we eventually moved in together, and the rest is history.
so what do you feel is one of the hardest things about marriage?
I don't know. We that goes person to person. So for the two of us, there's, you know what? Reminding yourself that everything's not always gonna be cake and ice cream. Like, you know what I mean? Because I have more good days than I do bad days with Valkyrie. Like, immensely. Like, 300 days out the year, I think we may have 20 days where we just can't fucking stand each other. Like, you know what I mean? And out of those last 340 some odd days, there might be another 10 where we just need our space. But within those times where we need space or we're arguing, we've grown from those arguments, if you know what I mean. So I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of it has to do with us acknowledging ourselves.
Right.
I don't necessarily get the Will Smith Jada Pinkett Smith relationship, but Will said
They're toxic.
essentially. But Will said something that made a lot of sense when he said, "I can't make you happy." Like, you know what I mean? I can do things to make Valkyrie happy. I can do things that'll like put a smile on her face, but I can't make her happy. Like, you know what I mean? That has to be something that she wants. But since we both want to be happy, we make each other happy.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's really the hardest part that really comes to it, is actually just acknowledging more yourself when it comes to the relationship, because you can't manage the other person. It's just not possible. Like, I can say up and down that I'm happy in my relationship, but if I'm not happy within myself, then that energy is gonna come out and affect what me and her do together. Because a relationship is a team, a relationship is a partnership, and that's not even just in romance. That's just in life in general. Like knowing your boundaries, knowing the people you're with. And when I get into these really bad moods of like depression or anxiety, I'm still learning to say, "Hey, I'm not really in a good place right now." And she'll say, "Do you need some time alone? Do you need to go see a friend? Do you need some video game time? Do you need to just come hang out with me and watch some TV? Do you want to go out?" So like I'm learning within myself to be a better husband. And Valkyrie is the same thing. Like when we get mad at each other, when we get mad or we're just in a certain place, we have to remind each other that there's another person in this relationship. So I think a lot of it has to do with self-reflection, self-accountability, and then coming together to help each other grow. And that's not even necessarily, it's difficult, but it's also very rewarding, because if you acknowledge certain things, you don't really have to go through the same trials and tribulations again. Will you slip up and make bumps in the road from the same stupid shit that you did before? Absolutely. But it won't be as bad if you've acknowledged the stuff that's happened before.
Gotcha. And my final question. What is your take on polygamy?
I think that polygamy or polyamorous relationship.
Or polyamory.
I think
polyamorous lifestyles.
I think polyamorous lifestyles work. I know at least one person. No, I know a few people who are in them, and they work.
Really?
Yeah, and it works for them. But what's funny about it is people.
Is it like a guy with multiple, or a female with multiple, or is it both?
Both.
Okay.
And so, shout out to my homegirl Charmaine, who was on the show, who talks about being in a polyamorous relationship, and she really put me on to what these relationships mean, because it's always because there's a lot of misinformation with stuff like that. Like people automatically think you just go out and just fuck, but but within your home relationship, there have to be rules, and she explained the rules within her relationship. And so, for example, if person A and person B are in a polyamorous relationship, and they agree, hey, you can fuck whoever you want, but don't go down on them, or don't give up the butthole, or just something like that, or just the idea of making sure that your person you're with is clean, and that's a huge thing. Like, you know what I mean? Like, are you just out there fucking and being reckless, or are you really making sure that the person you're with is clean and they're safe? Or like, imagine being in a relationship, you fuck somebody, and you think everything's fine, and then you turn around and find out they have a crazy fucking significant other. And now they're popping tires or fucking throwing rocks through your window because you didn't know that there was something else going on. So safety is concerned. I honestly don't think. Okay, Sticky Fingers has a song. You can't limit love unless you lack understanding. So you can't limit love unless you lack understanding. I am an insecure man. I don't want to hear about my wife fucking anybody else. I don't even want to know. Like, you know what I mean? So like, you'd have gone do it. Just don't tell me about it. Like, but Valkyrie's also one of those people where she's like, she don't want anybody else. Like, you know what I mean? So we're both cool. Like, you know what I mean? I don't need
Always so sweet.
like,
Goals. Hashtag goals.
oh, don't get it twisted. We argue and shit like that, but we've also we've argued, and this pandemic has strengthened our relationship because we were going at it. She had a lot of shit going on. I had a lot of shit going on, and it was bad. It was bad for
Right.
maybe a week. You know what I mean? But we got through it, and honestly, our relationship is stronger for it. But I honestly think that if we didn't have a lot of the insecurities that were brought into us, I think a lot more people would be polyamorous. If we didn't example, you go back to church and they say you're only supposed to have sex with the person you're married. What happens if that person's not sexually compatible? You know what I mean? Or what if there are two people who don't know what they're doing, and then it's like this just doesn't work? Or how do you know what you like until you experiment with things you do and don't like? Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
So if we lived having a conversation we leaving Seattle, driving back to the airport, and we were talking about this, about how America will glorify sex if it makes them money, but if you talk about it somewhere and they can't make money on it, oh, they frown on that shit immediately.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's fucking hysterical because it's like, how do you do any of that and not really get that what you're doing is really, really fucked up? You know what I mean? But imagine if we lived in a world, right? Let's take Caribbean culture. Y'all are cool. Like, Caribbean culture is dope because it's like there's a lot of body positivity.
Mm-hmm.
Big, skinny, you know what I mean? Like, it's a different kind of atmosphere than what you get here. Like,
But it took a while to get there.
Absolutely.
In honesty. Yeah.
And there's still some things that there's, and I've noticed that a lot of Caribbean people are getting away from the extreme homophobia that was prevalent in the 90s. You know what I mean? There's still ways to go, but it's cool. But again, it could just be the people I hang out with. You know what I mean? Like when Kim House has her get-togethers, we see the entire fucking rainbow of people there. Black, white, clear, fucking Hispanic, Caribbean, everybody's there, just having a grand old fucking time. You know, so maybe it's just the people I hang out with. But I honestly feel that if we weren't given these limitations on our bodies, I think there would be a lot more polyamorous people.
See, look at that. They Roe versus Wade in us already. We ain't even realize it.
Oh, the whole fucking Bible is dude. Don't get me started on the fucking Bible. Yo, that shit. All right, I'm gonna say this live on air. Adam was the first bitch ass nigga. Yo, he is the original bitch ass nigga. So everyone goes, oh well, Eve tempted him. Nigga, say no. That's all you had to do was say no. Just say no.
The Jamaican parody of that is hilarious.
Send that shit to me, dog.
It is absolutely hilarious.
Dude, just say no. He was the original bitch ass nigga. That's all he had to do was say no. Just be like, nah, I'm cool.
Right.
Or just
imagine that.
Or slap that shit out their hand bitch, don't you want to be in paradise?
What I say?
Yeah. Oh, man. This has been the Old Man Wade Show. Stephanie, tell everyone where they can find you, please.
You can find me on Instagram, Venomously Me, or Venom's Corner. I am putting my efforts back into that. It's been a lot of shit. A lot of shit.
Spell Venomous for us, please.
VYN. Oh, VYN. Look, see, I can't even get it all the way out. It is VYNOMOUSLYME. Venomously Me.
So
that's where you can find me.
Make sure you find that. She's also on Venomous Corner, VYNOMSCORNER. I follow both. Stephanie's my homegirl. She's part of the tribe. And shout out to y'all. I meant to say this to you, but I love the fact that you, Valkyrie, have this relationship that has nothing to do with me. Like, you know what I mean? That's the other thing.
Hey,
like, go out, have
who can turn down great people with nice racks? So we took a group picture. Me, her in the esky. We took a group picture, and I am in the middle, and both of them are like here and here, and I'm like, yeah, I get to sit between the nurses with the nice rack.
Oh shit. Oh, and I heard a story about how you were pissed off and like you wouldn't let anybody pay for parking.
I wasn't pissed off. It was just like, what you gonna do? Fight me? I was at the machine first.
You do realize it would end up being. I could actually see y'all fighting over who was gonna pay for something.
The Dorchester came out. I won.
God.
I was like, don't threaten me with a good time. I ain't had a good fight in a long time.
Oh, yeah, we heard about you in D.C.
Hey, and I was pregnant. So.
I know. I'm aware. That's one of my favorite stories ever. All right, everybody.
You never did want to get out and talk about it. So.
Yo, let's talk about it. Yo, one of my favorites was, you know when someone goes, yo, my man.
That's what it was given. Because I was calm the whole time. I was like, so do you want to get out and talk about it?
I was telling my wife about this. This happened a few years ago, maybe like 4. And this dude wanted to fight. And I don't fight. I'm too old for that shit. But this dude had said something. I said, yo, you may get a few hits in, but I can take pain. I was like, I used to cut myself every night. The fuck are you gonna do to me? And when I get close to you, I'm going to squeeze the fucking life juices out of you. Now, do you want to do this? And
I know that fucked up his mental. Like, how do you receive that?
Like, it's one of those things where it's just like, do you want to challenge my crazy? Like, I'm tapped. I'm not like, I'm not out here like, you know, like, oh, like, you know what I mean? I'm not like, you know, I don't really say that I should be as, you know, wild off as I am. But straight up and down, like, yo, I'm too old to fight, but if I get close to you, I'm a big boy. This fight is not gonna last.
That escalated quickly.
Yeah, y'all don't, and I don't want to fight. Leave me the fuck alone. I tell people like, yo, just leave me alone. Don't fucking touch me. We'll be fine. Don't touch me. Don't touch the people I care about. We won't have no fucking problems.
That's it. That is it.
This has been the Old Man Wade Show, and as always, be excellent to each other. Peace.
Damn it, Wade!